Hello. We've all been in that situation, standing at the bedside, needing to sedate a patient but terrified of suppressing their respiratory drive. It is a constant clinical balancing act. In this explainer from the MEK series, we are going to explore a unique agent that really aims to solve this very problem.
Our focus today is a deep clinical review of dexmedetomidine. Now, all of the material we're covering is based on the fantastic article titled Dexmedetomidine on Open Anesthesia. And of course, a quick disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only and should never be considered medical advice.
So, what makes dexmedetomidine so special? Well, look at this combination of properties. It provides sedation and hypnosis. It has analgesic effects, and it's a sympatholytic. But the real star of the show, the thing that sets it apart, is that it does all of this with virtually no respiratory depression. That's the game changer right there.
So how exactly does it pull this off? Let's get into the pharmacology that underpins this unique state of arousable sedation. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Dexmedetomidine is a highly selective alpha-2 adrenergic agonist. I mean, just look at that ratio, 16:20 to 1. That's nearly 8 times more selective than clonidine. And this incredible specificity for the alpha-2 receptor, well, that's the key to its entire clinical profile. So that high selectivity creates a very specific effect in the central nervous system. It acts on the alpha-2 receptors in the locus coeruleus, which then puts the brakes on norepinephrine release. By reducing these wake-up signals, it induces a state of sedation that very closely resembles natural sleep and from which a patient can be easily aroused.
All right, so we know how it works at the receptor level. Now let's follow its journey through the body. Let's talk pharmacokinetics.
This table really gives us the key clinical takeaways. First, look at that short initial half-life, around 6 minutes. That explains its rapid onset of action. Then, notice it undergoes near-complete metabolism in the liver, which means we always have to consider a patient's hepatic function. Finally, those metabolites are cleared almost entirely by the kidneys.
So given this unique mechanism and pharmacokinetic profile, where do we actually put it to use? Let's review the core clinical applications. You're listening to the MEK series.
Its versatility is impressive. We use it as an adjunct in general anesthesia to spare opioids. It's a cornerstone for sedating mechanically ventilated patients in the ICU. It's invaluable for procedural sedation, like awake fiberoptic intubations. And beyond that, it's used in pediatrics to prevent emergence delirium, and even as an adjunct to make regional blocks last longer.
Okay, we've covered the benefits, which are significant. But as we all know in medicine, there are always trade-offs. So we have to ask, what are the critical hemodynamic consequences we need to manage? And the answer lies right back in its mechanism. Those same sympatholytic properties that give us the benefits are also the source of its most common and significant adverse effects.
The two big ones you absolutely have to watch for are dose-dependent hypotension and bradycardia. It makes perfect sense, right? If you're inhibiting central sympathetic outflow, you're going to see a drop in blood pressure and heart rate.
Now here's a crucial clinical pearl. Even though we expect hypotension, if you give a rapid IV bolus, you can actually cause a brief, paradoxical hypertension. Why? Because you're hitting peripheral alpha-2 receptors on vascular smooth muscle, causing vasoconstriction. It's usually transient, but it's something you have to anticipate.
These hemodynamic effects mean we must be particularly careful when considering this agent in certain high-risk patient groups. You are listening to the MEK series.
This really lays out the patient populations that require our full attention. You obviously want to use it with extreme caution in anyone who is already bradycardic or hypotensive. In frail, critically ill, or elderly patients, it's often prudent to avoid a loading dose altogether to prevent sharp hemodynamic changes. And of course, in patients with severe heart failure, you have to be very cautious.
So, let's bring it all together. Dexmedetomidine is a unique agent offering sedation and some analgesia, while most importantly sparing respiratory function. Its primary adverse effects are dose-dependent hypotension and bradycardia, and its versatility has cemented its place in a wide range of clinical settings, from the OR to the ICU. So as we conclude, I want you to think about its profile. Right now, in your practice, which of your patients could benefit most from this agent? Who needs sedation, but you absolutely cannot afford to compromise their breathing? Thinking through that trade-off is key. If you found this review valuable, please subscribe and enable notifications for more content from the MEK series.